Thanks for giving me the platform and the opportunity to have a chat.
No problem.
I feel it might be very relevant at the moment with what's going on in people's lives. That I have, as you quite eloquently put it, gone through quite a bit of adversity. But what I try to do is try to keep it relevant for people to what's going on today in people's lives, to the point that where I found my strengths and what I found helped me in sort of not too dissimilar situations. I'd start by giving a little introduction about myself and establish a little bit of probably credibility for using this platform. As you know, I'm in withDocFitness now for over 2 years. I'm actually the current ninja of the year, and I was very honoured to receive that. And ironically, I feel honoured to be doing this as the ninja. Basically, I suppose very early in my when I was very young, my father passed away. I was only 8. He was 37. I was the eldest of 5. My mother was pregnant actually with the 5th one of us. So that was probably the first bit of adversity I put up with. He was 8. I was 8 and he was 37. Died of a tumour on the brain. I don't remember him that much. People tell me that I'm very like him. But I remember that being a hard time, and it was hard on my mother my father passed away in 1969. So there were difficult times. I went on to follow my own path, I suppose, without going too deep into it. I played in Galway football teams for quite a number of years. I played minor in 1978, and I was on the under 21 team for a couple of years. I think Cork better than an All-Ireland final after a replay in 1981. I went on to the Galway junior team and the Galway senior team in 1984. I was pushing hard for the team at the time, and we had got through to the kind of semi-final. But I had a serious knee injury, which turned out to be a career-ending knee injury from county football perspective anyway. I was told at the time that I probably wouldn't even get away with club football, and I didn't. A couple of years later, I had to retire from it. I went into management, and it brought me on a different route, but it was a big blow at the time. I was 33 years of age. I got married the year before, and I was going places career-wise. I could see sport-wise that being a county footballer, naturally enough, doors were beginning to open and stuff, but everything closed, and that world kind of stopped very abruptly for me. I couldn't afford to do the knee rebuilding operation that I needed at the time, which was common nowadays. I was after getting married the year before. I started my business in 83, and this was 84, early 84, and I couldn't afford it to be 5 or 6 months out of work. So that was possibly a second blow that I had in early years and early in my life. I went on then to build a business, predominantly plant and machinery. I had a lot of guys employed, and that business went from nothing really, and I ended up having a lot of machinery, as in a lot. Would have had over 20 excavators, 12 or 14 trucks, a lot of Volvo junk trucks, and I did a lot of heavy muck shift and heavy haulage, all that sort of stuff. I built that business up. Then I went on to build another business, and I got into development. And when the last crash came, I call it a crash, in 2007, 2008, I was hugely extended. My borrowings on the property and the stuff were very high, and the values of stuff fell overnight. Now, I won't get into that too much, but apart from, I suppose the learnings I took from it, but just to give people some sort of an idea as to where I was, I had come from a young man, I suppose, who lost his father at 8 years of age, to being a county footballer, to having a career-threatening or a career-ending injury in 1984. I suppose to 1990, 1991, things were going well for me in the business, and that there was a recession in the late 90s, but not as bad as 2007, 2008. So that was a crash for me. The best description I'd give is It was like falling off Mount Everest. I was worth a lot of money, my properties were worth a lot of money, and the businesses were worth a lot of money. But within 2 years, 18 months, they were worth SFA. So that was huge because it hit me very hard. My marriage broke up as well. I'd been married for 25 years with 2 kids, Sean and Marina, son and a daughter. And I was in turmoil. So I'd lost my identity really, totally. And I found it really difficult. My self-esteem went, and I suppose I found at the time what I thought I might have had 100 friends, I had very few. I went on a recommendation to somebody a life coach, who coached me eventually, and I found coaching brilliant. I found it a brilliant tool. It helped me an awful lot at the time. And I went on to become a life coach myself. And I found it brilliant to deal with what I had to deal with at the time. Bringing it, I suppose, more recently, one of the things I've had to deal with again recently, for people who don't know, there's a few of my close friends who probably do, and you know yourself, Doc, that the 7th of March 2019 will be a date I won't forget for a while. I was in Doc Fitness training on Thursday, and I remember saying to Robbie I wouldn't be in Friday, and he said to me, just why, where are you going? So I said to him I was going to do a complete medical, but I said, this is a very in-depth one. I said, I'm doing it in the matter. And he said, so you'll be grand. He said, you're flying. And I thought the same, but the last number of years I have been, I suppose, demanding a lot of my body and pushing myself to the limits, and I was looking after it to the best of my ability from the point of view of training, going to Doc Fitness, adhering to the programs and listening to the coaches and all that. So I really wanted to take an in-depth look and see what was going on inside. So I got a CT scan done, a coronary CT scan, for anybody who doesn't know it. This test is relatively new. Dolores, my partner now, she's a nurse, a retired nurse, and she tells me that it's only in the last 5 years. Ironically enough, the cardiologist I decided to go to was a friend of mine, named Declan Sugu. He's a Kerry man, he works in the matter. So he organised it. I went up and I did a scan on the Friday, and I think we were climbing mountains in the Burren on Sunday, training for Mont Blanc, which we were going to do in June. And I think it was out on the bike cycling with Sean Kelly and a few of the guys on Saturday. So Declan Sugu rang me on Monday morning, and he said to me, he asked me what were they at for the weekend, and I told him, and he started laughing. So I said, what were the results like? And he said, Mairtin, he said, you're in trouble. And I started laughing. I said, trouble? What do you mean? And he said, there's quite a substantial build-up of plaque, he said, on a couple of your arteries. And I just said, Jesus. And he said, I'm flummoxed by this, he said, because if I wanted a poster boy, he said, somebody your age, somebody even younger than you, he said, to be living their life the way they should, he said, I would have promoted you as that person. But he said, I want to take an in-depth look. I want you back up again. And we'll put a camera in and we'll have a look. So to make a long story short, I went up again within 7 or 8 days. And he discovered that 2 of my arteries were fine. My heart muscle was very strong, very good, great condition. I have a very low resting heartbeat. But 2 of my arteries were quite substantially blocked. So he put a couple of stents in them. So I have 4 stents in 2 arteries. So that was a bombshell, to be honest with you. It didn't hit me too hard initially, but when I saw the reaction to a few close friends of mine, their reaction to my news made me kind of reappraise the whole thing and have another look at it. But it's 4 or 5 weeks ago now. I've recovered well, and he tells me I'll be stronger than ever, and that I've probably added 20 years to my life. So that was something I hadn't anticipated, and it did hit hard. I was emotional. I got angry. There was a lot of stuff that came out, but I got it out of my system, and I readjusted myself, and I moved on. And that probably brings me to resilience and positivity, which I think is very important. I found that specifically when I lost the businesses and when my marriage broke up, I stopped exercising, which totally wasn't me, and I was bordering on depression. I was suicidal, and I was finding it hard to look at myself in the mirror. I was in a bad place, but through coaching and the GP that I knew well, who knew my history, he got me to get back on my bike at the time and get back exercising. So I think it's important for people, anybody listening to me, that the big takeaway for me from those hard times is that exercise is very important. And from exercise and that focus to do your exercise, it changes your mentality. And I found that brilliant. It creates these endorphins, as you often talk about your self-talk, which are brilliant. But I know at that level of, I suppose, adversity and stuff, when I eventually went back, now when I say I stopped everything for about 14 to 15 months, I didn't do a thing. I put on a bit of weight. My moods dropped, my energy levels dropped, everything every problem was worse than the next problem. I couldn't deal with anything. And as I said, I'd lost my identity. But when I slowly began to go back to exercise again, I found that it was giving me relief. Now, it's a fine line, and I know yourself and Robbie and Oisin have spoken to the members about over-exercising. And I think that's very important, especially in this current climate where, everybody's got hit with different scenarios now. Some people have been running businesses that they can't run at the moment. Other people are working in establishments where they can't go to work at the moment. People that are home with their partners, with their wives, with their kids. Everybody's situation is different, but there is an awful lot of stress. So what I would be saying to people, it's often important that you have a goal, but it's often important from a training perspective. And I know you guys in withDocFitness are big on that you have a training program and that you adhere to it. Because sometimes what we do is we go overboard and we really focus on training and we drive ourselves and put ourselves into a worse state than we are actually in already. So that is very important. And I found that important as well, that you need the focus and you need a goal, some goal that you're training for, whether it's, for me at the moment, I'm going to be climbing a mountain when this is all finished. So my goal is that I keep myself in the best shape possible. When withDocFitness opens up again, that I'll go back and whatever test the guys get me to do, I mightn't pass them with flying colours, but at least I won't have let go too much of where I was. And that in a couple of weeks after that there will be a mountain to be climbed, and that I'll be in a good space to do that. And I find if you have that goal, you organise your training program, I think it's very important. And what comes with that then is that your energy levels, your stress levels, you're more in control of your mentality and your mental state and your psychological state. I found that very important. The other thing I found as well in just to let people know of some of the events, I suppose, and some of the challenges I've done. Well, people would know, I suppose, the main one would have been that I cycled across America. Now, like, I skip over that a lot, but that would be 20 years ago in October. Just for people who don't know, the USA was a coast-to-coast challenge. It was 3,000 miles in 25 days with no rest day. Now, like, I came from being a Gaelic footballer to having a serious knee injury after coaching at underage level and junior and intermediate at the club at home at the time. I went away from it and I began to like cycling. It was doing my knee a lot of good and it was giving me a focus to exercise. I began to do cycles like around the Carib or charity or any of that kind of stuff around Ireland. But when they advertised the cycle across America, I was really interested. I wanted to see, would I be able to train for it, and would I have the mentality for it? No, like everything else, when I signed up for it first, I trained too hard in the first couple of months. They brought us to Trinity College in Dublin. They designed a training program for us, which I found brilliant. I didn't have the luxury of being able to go into withDocFitness and shoot the breeze with the lads and be able to say to me, geez, Martin, you're overdoing it here. You need a recovery. You need your protein. You need a week off. You need to give yourself a bit of space. It was totally unknown to me 20 years ago. What did happen with the training program and designing it, that time, this was a year before we were going to do the actual event. We used to come together someplace in the country, 32 of us eventually signed up for it. There was 36, but a couple of them fell out for health issues and they weren't fit enough. We came together once a month and we trained together over a weekend. They monitored us and how we were training and were we improving. I adhered to this training program. I got to train with a heart rate monitor. That's 20 years ago. I was told about, keeping it in the different zone and how important it was in that. And I know yourself drafted a piece on, people sometimes overemphasizing it. And you're like, you'll be glad to hear what I'm going to say next. Sean Kelly, and I'd be very friendly with him, the famous cyclist. He did that cycle across America with us 20 years ago, and he was one of the team leaders. And we became friends that time, and we're friends ever since. But he often says that all the machines are fine and testing yourself in lab situations and heart rate monitors and everything else. Kelly's motto is, none of them can measure how much you can suffer. And it's a simplification, but you can overemphasize it. But the training that year was difficult. It was totally new to me. My body was changing. I was beginning to get lighter. I wasn't able to climb for shit. I was too heavy. I was going too hard, too early. What they told me was if I kept training the way I was training, I'd last about 3 days in America. It was 25 days. It was like eating an elephant, for small bites at a time. I changed my training. I did what I was told, even though there were big gaps in between. But I taught myself how to train. I taught myself how to eat food that was good for me. I had to have a look at, we had psychologists who dealt with us by phone at the time because the enormity of the challenge and what we were trying to do. But I would always remember the guy that was dealing with us. He used to have chats with us once every couple of weeks. I rang him a couple of times myself. I was struggling because I was pushing myself too hard. But he often spoke to us about our attachments. And at the time, our attachments were food, eating too much of the wrong food, alcohol, training, lifestyle, overtraining, stuff that has become very important now and that is dealt with hugely in Doc. And I'd have to say my own experience of going back to do some serious work on my own core predominantly in Doc about 2 years ago. The diet issue of it came in hugely, and the effectiveness of protein for recovery and all that. And I had many to chat with Robbie about it. And I can see how important it all is now. But just for people that are listening, I found that definitely the overtraining element became very important. And you do need to dilute it. You cannot push your body all the time. Don't forget that every one of us have jobs to go to. In some instances, there's family, there's partners, there's wives, husbands, whatever it is. So it is a big mix to take on and to try and keep all sides afloat. But I think what you're doing yourselves is a huge help. And I think for people, like crossing America for me at the time was a huge challenge. I did it. I was one of only 14 people who didn't miss a mile. But what I found that time was that my greatest strength was not my physical ability, it was my mental ability. Because I saw guys who, in these tests they did in Trinity College, they were cyclists all their lives. But when stuff got really hard, when the weather got really bad, when we were cycling into headwinds, I never forget going across Georgia, It didn't let up for 2 days. It's real strong guts to win. People were folding. They just couldn't take the hardship of it. And I found that my mental strength was really, really good. And that's what I would try and encourage people now, that we're in a different place and we're all kind of on a path where, if you like, I use the analogy that maybe one side is the familiar, or what was normal to us. It's acceptable, and our habits. We were going to doc 3 days a week. We were listening to the guys. We were being told if our form was bad. We were being followed up on diet, and we were happy at that, and we got used to it. That's part of your attachments. But nowadays, while you're doing stuff online, people are unsure. Some people are not buying into it as much. They don't like out of exercising inside in the house. They're finding it difficult because there's an awful lot of other stuff going on. So it is important to keep hold of some of that and not let it grow. The other side, I think, is the unknown and the unfamiliar for us, and the uncomfortable, and nobody wants to go there. So I think if we look at it slightly differently, and I had to do the same with a lot of this adversity that I had to deal with, I found that you're on this path, and okay, what used to be the normal is one side, and there's potentially the new stuff on the other side that you're not exactly comfortable with. I think the path ahead it's new, but it's self-development. And I found when I lost my identity that I went in to myself, and I found that I had other gifts, and that there was a lot of things I was good at that I never realized. I became a way better cook. I began to go out and I had fruits and vegetables, and I began to look at stuff that I'd never looked at before because I never gave myself a chance. So I think that people at the moment should look at things differently and try to self-develop and self-discover. And you'll be surprised at what you're going to see. You'll be more enthusiastic, and you'll unearth or you'll discover different talents that you have. I think that is very important. The biggest things that probably I will always or never forget was that every one of us, like, for a few people who are listening to this who have joined a hiking group that I kind of mistakenly set up, a lot of the guys in withDocFitness who went and climbed Carintubal with not an awful lot of preparation, bar the preparation that they had done in withDocFitness, which I knew was more than enough. Because for people who climb that stairs to go up to doc 3 mornings a week or 3 evenings a week or whatever, that's commitment. And it's commitment to exercise, to change something in your life. And once you do that, you're committed. And it's easy to follow up with different challenges. So the guys that went with me the first time to Carintubal in really bad conditions, they were hugely surprised at themselves. I wasn't surprised at them at all, because everybody has massive hidden strengths. But sometimes it takes something like what's going on at the moment for us to discover that. And I think it's important that everybody gives themselves that chance. Like I had to, I had no choice. But in a way, a lot of people have no choice now either. You're getting a lot more time to think. You're getting a lot more time to assess what's going on. And it is difficult, and it is unknown, but you have an awful lot of strengths. Slow down and be kind to yourself. Keep the exercise going, but definitely have a goal and keep the focus as well. I think that's very important. The other stuff I suppose I've done along the same lines would be, people would know that I went to Everest Base Camp, which was a huge story in itself. I did that with my son Sean. That was in November, December 2018. I've done challenges like Mizzen Head to Malin Head, which would be end-to-end challenges. 653 kilometers. I did it inside 24 hours with a group. I would have trained really hard for all of those challenges, and I found that definitely nothing is impossible, and it doesn't matter how difficult you think a situation is. There's always a different way to look at it, and there's always a solution. But don't give up and don't throw in the towel. just refocus and look within yourself and look deeply and see some of these attachments that we are totally attached to. Are we overdoing it? The food we're eating at the moment, the amount of alcohol we're consuming, our lifestyle. Can we make subtle changes? How much are we on social media? Can we go out for a walk more often? It's just slight changes, and it makes a huge difference to your mindset. So I think without rattling on too long, Doc, hopefully people might have got something positive out of that. And I have no problem if people want to contact me separately, or if in a couple of weeks' time, if you want to do another one of these, we can do so. People want to contact me directly that have any issues or any questions they have, I have no problem with that.
Brilliant. I think just while you're saying that as well, Mairtin, if anybody has, guys, any questions that you maybe you'd like me or one of us to ask Mairtin for a future episode, pop them in an email to me privately, and rather than leave them below here if you don't want to. But if you have any questions for Mairtin now, pop those below as well, guys. But Mairtin, I actually wrote down a couple of points that just sprung to mind because it's funny, like this has obviously been the theme of the things, any mindset stuff we've gone through the last few weeks. It's all about adapting to the current situation and looking at things from a different perspective. Yeah. Because like you said, no matter how hard things are, there's always a solution to it. And a couple of small things that stood out for me was, and we forget sometimes how basic they are, is have a goal.
Yeah.
Like sometimes I know we go deep into goal setting and that kind of stuff just so we can make people figure out the actual steps involved to get to the goal. But like, you don't have to overcomplicate that. That could be as simple as just having something simple to keep you focused right now. I know we did get a question asking us like, how are you sticking to the online workouts versus the gym workouts? And you preface that by saying like, we had the gym, we had gone in getting coached, and we enjoyed it, and all of a sudden it was torn its head. And we've gone through a period of dealing with that immediate change, and now we're at the end of April, and we know this is definitely going to the middle of May for now, if not into June. But we're starting to adapt to the situation. There's, like you said, a lot of people that don't like the home workouts. They're not adapting to them as best as the way some people are. That is normal. That is fucking normal. I'm the same way. I'm lucky that I have a training rack here. If I didn't have a training rack, I don't know if I would do as much workouts. I'd probably go for more runs. But the key thing is you're still doing something. Yeah. Like, what would you say to the people that are struggling with the home workouts at the
moment? Well, people who are struggling with them, there are people doing them, I know.
Yeah.
I'd say that it's important that, like for myself, I'm not doing them. I watch them afterwards, and I do my own workouts. But I think it's important that we don't lose what we've built up over whatever length of time you're in the gym up till now. And I think it's like I was in recovery mode after my procedure for the first couple of weeks, and that was the main reason actually I hadn't logged on. That's changing now. I've done a few workouts myself, and now I feel able that I will be able to do some of the workouts online. But I think it's like everything. I would encourage people that we're in strange times and we're in unknown times, and I would encourage people, give things a go and stick with it, because you're going to be doing it. You're going to be. It's like you're answerable, because there's time slots you report in, and you do them for people who are maybe a bit lax. I'd be very good that way, whether I do a doc workout at 7:30 a.m. or I don't do it. I'll have it done myself at 6:30, or I do it at 8:30. Other people are not as accountable. But I would just say to them, if you don't find it comfortable, find a way to find some part of it comfortable. Ring yourself, ring Robbie, touch base with Oisin, say I'm not, and ask them for a program. I know some of the guys have done that, and that's important. Other people just don't like to be seen to be doing it. I think there are ways, of course, that you don't have to be seen, but you can listen to the workout being done. I would say explore it. Don't lose the good work that you've done up till now. And it is very important. Like, we're lucky with the weather and stuff now that we can go out for walks, you can go out and do a little bit on a bike like I'm doing. But like to lose the core work and the strength and conditioning work that we've all done. It would be a shame to lose that because we don't want to, I suppose, change our attachments to the way we used to do things. It goes back to what I said earlier. So I would encourage everybody, give it a go, try it. Ring the guys and say, geez, I'm not comfortable with this, but I'm able to do this, and could you do a program for me that might suit me? And I'm sure you have no problem doing that.
Of course, yeah. No, that's brilliant though, Mairtin, because you mentioned two of the words as well that time with it, when one of them was identity, and how you lost your identity a few years back and you found yourself again. You looked within, like, and you followed it on by saying, I think now, like, once you're committed to something, you commit to it, like, and you do it fully. But that is a part of someone's identity, like. And I talk about this a lot as well, as do people have these kind of personal core values for themselves. One of my core values that I like to live by is responsibility. Like, so I take responsibility for the position I'm in and where I'm going, and that can be relating to loads of stuff. It could be responsibility for doing home workouts, as much as I don't like them, or not the fondness of them. Even last week, Robbie changed my mindset, and that straight off the bat, because he's like, Dave, you're probably trying to do too much, or you're probably, if I go for a run, I don't like running in the road. I told myself that for years, and it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, like. And to Robbie turned around and he goes, Dave, you've probably gone too hard for years on it, and you just didn't enjoy it. Why not try this way? And I did what he said. I was like, fuck, I actually didn't mind that. Like, that wasn't too bad. And tomorrow I'm going for my third run for third week in a row. Like, that's unheard of for me. But just like, there are little sound bites of information that really drive home for people, because I think the second you tell yourself, oh, I just can't hack those home workouts, you're going to believe that, like, and you're going to find ways to not do the home workouts then. Whereas if you tell yourself, like you just said, do something. Can I find a way to enjoy it? Can I do fucking 5-10 minutes?
Yes.
And above all, get on to us if you need a bit of a hand, because we have done a lot of stuff in the background, privately, like small workout programs, larger workout programs. And as well, Mairtin, you mentioned like how some people mightn't like going onto the live workouts. Mm-hmm. Don't forget, guys, you can go onto a live workout and not put on your video or not put on your audio. That's entirely up to you. So thanks for bringing that up there, Mairtin, by the way. Last little point I'd written down here is that you mentioned that we are all capable of more than we think. Yeah. And I just wanted to highlight those, Mairtin, because it's inspirational stuff, like. So thank you for that.
Yeah, and just before you go away, back there from the identity thing, like, we're all very, and this is very important, we're all very aware of our own identity. Now, I didn't say that lightly. I got emotional when I said it, because it's still very raw for me, that I totally lost my identity. Like, I suppose in the early days, I was the eldest son in a family that, were kind of rudderless for a while. Father had passed away very early. My mother was trying to cope with 5 very young kids, one of them just after being born. But, like, I had gone from there to getting on to Galway football teams, and I was making inroads, and I was doing quite well. Bang, that got taken. And I'd lost that identity. Geez, he used to be a county footballer. Losing the businesses, marriage breakup, all of a sudden that identity is gone. I was an employer. I was somebody around, stuff happened. All of a sudden, nothing was happening. I couldn't make anything happen. I was depressed. Trying to rebuild yourself, like, and people's image, sometimes we can be hugely critical of ourselves in certain situations. I went through all of that, and like, people's opinion of me tonight, because I'm going to go into the gym in a couple of weeks' time, and Robbie will be pushing me to deadlift 120 kgs, and people will look sideways. Jesus, that fucker got 4 stints in. What's he doing that for? People's image changes of you, of themselves. So what I'd say is, like, don't look in the mirror. Go deep in yourself and see, who are you, and what makes you buzz, and what makes stuff happen for you. Because we're all like, and talk to people who are doing stuff. Talk to coaches who will help you if you're having difficulties with certain areas. Talk to me. I'm a life coach. Talk to a friend of yours. Tell them if you have a problem. Geez, I'd love to climb Cairn Tour. When are you doing that again? I'd like to do something else. Give yourself a goal and get that positive energy from people. It's out there. Just go and grab it. I'd leave it on that and say, The best of luck to everyone. Mind yourself, and